What is up, fighters? Today we're taking a look at 5 of the biggest things that diamond players do better than low elo ones. These are also some of the big differences between low diamond and high diamond, so if you're diamond 5 at the moment, this is the stuff you need to focus on. Comment down below with your best way to climb to be featured in a future video on screen, and please like it if you did. I put a lot of effort into this video. Thank you again to Pro Guides for editing this together. You can check them out down below, but enough chit chat, let's jump into the first thing. Diamond players are on the whole very decisive, whether it's for the best or not. They don't just sit there and wonder what if, they just do it. Sometimes this will backfire, but being decisive gives less time for the enemy team to react and is probably one of the most important things to climbing. You just stop hesitating. I'll give you a few examples to show you what I mean. So mid-game, this is super important. This is really what will help you turn a game around or snowball and win. The best way to actually pick a fight is to start these side lanes pushing and then group mid and wait for someone to go to the side. As soon as someone goes to clear, you instantly pull the trigger and engage because they're a man down. Now this is the thing, if you wait, if you hesitate, then the chances are the enemy team will back off and just sit under their tower. If you instantly go, they'll probably be close enough and you can pick a good fight. Another example would be something like with TP. If you're looking at bot lane and thinking, maybe I could, but should I really do it? Then chances are the opportunity will pass. But if you have a wall behind them and think, alright, I'm just going to do it, it will often turn out a lot better. So how do you really improve like being decisive though? Well, you can actually cover this up as a worse player by thinking ahead. Give yourself conditions. Think to yourself, okay, if Ashe goes bot lane right now to push that wave, then I'm going to go ham and engage. So that way, when she appears on the map, you'll instantly just click your fingers and go, rather than seeing her and thinking, oh wait, it's a 4v5, maybe I could go actually. It's the same thing bot lane. Like think to yourself, okay, if Janny uses her shield right now, I'm going to engage when it expires, rather than after it times out thinking, oh yeah, that thing is on cooldown now, maybe I could actually go. Second thing is stop caring if you lose. It happens. Most players climb with a 55% win rate. That means you'll lose a lot of games. This doesn't mean play stupidly and just say, well, Fi told me to. That's not how it works, okay? Just don't play too safe and doubt yourself either, because you won't pull that trigger out of fear of what if it goes wrong. Basically, you'll talk yourself out of more good plays than stopping bad ones. The second thing is they know exactly how to win a game with their champion. They have a game plan and they understand their win conditions. This is really important. A lot of people will just stumble through a game. They'll push their lane all the time. They'll get a few kills maybe and then just farm some more. Maybe go mid, maybe a dragon, and no, just see what happens. That's not how you control the game. That's not how you win. You should have a good idea of what you want to do before you even start. You'll notice in the LCS and stuff, like casters will always say their win conditions is picks or team fights or split push. It's not even that complicated in solo queue because you're only thinking about your champion to start with, what you're good at, how are you going to win. This also comes down a lot to matchup. Like as an example, on my stream I always play Lucian against Vayne. The matchup is pretty bad for Vayne in this current meta, at least in the lane phase, so my plan was to go really aggressive, get a lead in lane, and then try group with my team before Vayne can catch back up. So I play more aggressively, I poke more, I try to trade rather than just sit back and farm. I take the bot tower early, then rotate mid and pressure that, all the time forcing Vayne to choose between helping her team or getting that farm she needs to reach late game. A few other examples would be like Twisted Fate. You know you want to roam, right? You don't just want to sit in farm, so you pick a lane and you camp it and you try to use your ultimate as often as possible. When mid game rolls around, you ward a bit deeper, you catch people with your ultimate when they're alone and snowball that way rather than full on team fights. Nautilus top is another good example because you can either build like full tank, Sunfire and just roam down to team fight, or you can build ZZ Rock Portal, you get a banner of command and you just set them both up in a lane and let them push. That could be your win condition. That could be how you want to win a game. You get those two, you let those take towers while you're pushing other lanes as a team. Having a game plan and not just coasting your way through the game is really important to climbing the ladder. Third thing is lane specific. This might not seem like a lot, but it's kind of the next step in a lane phase after the basics. Obviously, in theory, like diamond players should trade better, right? CS better and position better, but that's just the basics. Like there's no point me going over that here. Knowing when to recall and when to push has quite a big impact actually. So when do you actually push in lane? A lot of this is going to come down to experience, but I can kind of cover some of them. Now you can push while they're in lane. It creates a lot of pressure because the opponent can't move over the map at all. Like they're too busy farming those minions under tower tower, and often they'll use their spells on the wave and not on you. This is more though referring to like when to hard push after the opponent has based. In general, whenever your opponent bases, you want to make them miss some minions and punish them. So as soon as they go, you use everything on it to push it in. It also stops them counter pushing you into tower when you recall afterwards, and let's go on to that. That is the other part of this, when to recall. Normally you don't want to be the first person to recall unless you have a specific reason to, like you need an item badly, like a tier to start stacking it, or you're too low to stay. If you just recall randomly, then your opponent gets a free push into your tower and you'll probably miss 2 waves, maybe just 1 if you're lucky. The other time that this is really important is after your opponent bases. They've just gone back, they've spent all of their gold and they come back stronger. You need to do the same. You need to get items and make sure that you're just as strong and keep up item wise. That's kind of plat level stuff, like as in even plat players mess that up a lot. Diamond level stuff would be more like freezing, setting up dives, objectives, invades. Objectives and invades are underrated. They're easier if the lanes are pushed in. It makes it harder for the enemies to react and stop something going on. Taking dragons or Rift Herald are also big things early, like if your opponent bases, then push and take a free objective. This leads perfectly onto my next point, almost like I planned it and scripted this video. Who would have thought? When to push mid game, when to pick fights and objectives are probably what wins most games, I think. Like the decision making behind it can often decide which team wins, especially at lower ranks. Higher ranked players should have a better grasp of what they can get away with, what their short-term goals are, like do we want towers now, a baron or whatever, and a lot of this is like down to experience as well. Let's cover when to push first. This can be as simple as like when you see people out of position or recall and grab a nifty tower, but are you guys ready for my super secret high-low strat? Well, it's actually push the bloody side lanes first. People just don't do this. Your minions are like the 6th player, they're your split pusher. Start top and bot pushing and then group mid. Someone is going to have to go and deal with those side lanes, otherwise they lose a tower, and that is fine for you. If they do, then pull the trigger and engage like we talked about earlier. This can get a lot more complicated, like when the enemy team is taking dragon. If they're around dragon and you're there but you don't have vision, then it's often a lot safer just to push mid, get some free damage on the towers or take towers. It forces them to choose basically. They either come away from the dragon and defend, which they'll be out of position for, or they take the dragon and they give up the tower. When to fight really comes down to like one thing, okay? You don't really want to take a 5v5 fight unless you're really far ahead. In a full-on team fight, lots can happen. Your teammates can fail, the enemy team can do really well. Like that's a risk and we don't want to take that risk. The best time to fight is even when your teammates are idiots, you still win. So like in a 5v4 or 5v3 if they're that bad. No matter how they do, no matter how badly they screw it up, you're going to have the numbers advantage and you should win anyway. Last thing, they play better from behind. It boils down to 2 things, I think. They don't give up and they have a good idea of what their comeback mechanics are. Not giving up in reality looks like they farm up, they won't die anymore, and they try to just play safer, I guess. The more important thing, or relevant thing I guess, are the comeback mechanics. Every single game has 2 main ones, so let's just highlight them to start with. Before those 2 things, you really have to group. You're behind, you're weaker in your lanes, and you need to break out of the lane phase by grouping together and not getting caught. The first thing is your towers are like a 6th player. Hug them, tell them you love them, and they just might kill someone if the enemy team dives. Use your towers, don't let them fall down for free, and that will help you stop the snowball. Second thing is a numbers advantage. When people are ahead, they get cocky. Because you're grouped as 5 now, the enemy team might not be and might only be like 4 for example, even if they're 5,000 gold ahead. If it's a 4v5, then in that fight you are probably even in gold wise because one of them isn't there. Catch people, ward your jungle, and pick fights when you have the numbers advantage. There are so many different ways to come back, like you could have a wombo combo and use that, you could have a split pusher, but basically figuring this out is how you come back in a game. You have a plan and you know what you're trying to do. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you again to Pro Guys for editing this together, and you can check out their YouTube channel if you want to on screen. Remember to comment, like, subscribe, share, and as always, let's go to the robots to finish this off.